We are guardians of Australia. We have no desire to become a political movement, we are not a cult nor are we a religion of any affiliation. We are the power of free will, a legion of the free-willed people, the only power remaining with the capacity to choose among alternatives or to act in certain situations independently of natural, social, or divine restraints. If you believe you have free will, then you should listen to what we have to say and share it. We are not racist, we do not condone any action or threat of action where that action causes certain defined forms of harm unless for good reason it is done in defense met with equal force. We do not cause interference and actions where such action done or threatened and created with any intention of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. We are guardians of Australia. It has been and continues to be powered by the people's reactions, comments, and posts relating to issues they feel concerned about within various social media platforms. Your reactions, comments, and posts has allowed Guardians of Australia to develop some thought-based insights from you, which we will now share. Insights help us to formulate our opinion of what Australians want and try to steer our virtual ship in your direction. For the want of a better way of putting it, it is your voice which inspires us to drive this Facebook page. This Facebook page is not that dissimilar from an actual protest except for it being online and not in the streets outside of some parliamentary buildings, not that that won't happen sometime in the future, which we will neither confirm or deny. This page is a virtual protest with a few big differences, in that we can collectively empower each other in real time, and in perpetuation, always protecting our laws, acting fairly and just, using common sense guided by a real conscience and not a made-up version found in some unrealistic medieval book of spells and incantations. We prefer to behave constitutionally and in a federated manner. This is to make sure Australian states and territories understand that Australian traditional values must be protected and preserved above all. We believe in freedom, so we want to protect free speech and the right to freedom of the press. If we also respect each other with good conscience, then we are a just legion of free-willed people. Another way of putting it is that a willing participant in any army is way better than a zombie following the orders of a dictator. Zombie activists do not have the living heart and mind to carry out and succeed in their mission freely. A virtual protest has already begun. For some time now we have been watching, studying and crunching the numbers in social media, determining how far the people will go towards supporting in protest against any government which allows institutionalized Islamic establishments, madrasas, mosques, and information centers for the purpose of advocating Islamism and converting everyday Australians, which Islam names as the Kafir. We must remember that Islam is relentless in its campaign to convert Kafirs to believers, or Muslims. This government is clearly not listening to its citizens. It is out of touch with reality and doesn't have what it takes to lead Australia into the century effectively in order for Australia to maintain its unique identity. We have seen time and time again how the elite politicians use a revolving door system of leadership spills, which results in a new leader or prime minister, who was not elected by the people but by a small greedy bunch of politicians all wanting a greater piece of the pie. This is not acceptable. This selfish political behavior by politicians just shows you that they don't care about what you want. This government is nothing greater than a handful of individuals with some power and influence, yet, you are far more numerous with even greater power collectively than any government. Your influential free speech is louder than any politician standing on a soapbox preaching bullshit. Reach out to someone today. We must continue to reach out to others and invite them. This is about knowing you have confidence in numbers of people who are trustworthy and loyal to being truly Australian, because to be truly Australian comes from the heart with a clear conscience of what they pledge allegiance to. We respect and have pride and confidence in your participation, knowing you behave peaceably yet strongly and conscientiously, against Islamism, socialism, communism and globalism. You should know that we are serious about not only gaining greater support from you but also inviting other similar groups or virtual populists to the table of alliance to discuss future plans for greater unity. We are protecting your freedom of speech. For your peace of mind, we have excluded all Islamist and communist governed countries from having access to this page. This means, If you have an account with Facebook and you do not live in such places as Australia, USA, UK, New Zealand, and a few others, then you won't find us on Facebook. We did this to give you peace of mind, so that you can be free to have your say without being threatened by individuals from Islamist and communist governed nations. Sometimes we need to control bad behavior. We do not use Facebook's profanity filter. Instead, we created rules for words which we know you don't like, and of course, we won't mention what those words are here. Debates are welcome, and we also encourage difference of opinion, for without differing opinions in debate, we will learn nothing new to forge ahead with our common goals as free-willed individuals. We want you all to feel safe and to engage others here with mutual respect, which we know all too well is the sign of who is a fair and just Australian. We are thankful that 99% of people who visit and engage with others here are fair and just. Invite your friends. Remember to invite as many new friends as you want, and don't forget to tell them to like our page. The more people we can reach, the better. Even if it is not our page but a similar page or group, invite them. It just takes a few clicks. A moment of your time on a regular basis creates a huge response in favor of all Australians. They have a voice too, so why not show them where they can use it effectively? We promise you and others here that we will not disappoint. We are conscious of the efforts by many other like-minded individuals who have for more than 15 years attempted to effect change in favor of what Australians really want. Like you, we also have been watching events unfold around us both here and abroad. Overseas in foreign lands you have watched, as Islamic conflict after Islamic conflict has played out, and millions have died as a result. There is no denying that Islamism is always playing its part behind Islamist attacks, and the Islamist has for some time, and even to this day, has the backing of our government and military. This backing, whether financially in aid or militarily with intelligence and field operational support, is specifically earmarked for Muslim aggression on Muslim aggression. Muslims are at war with Muslims. It is Sunni Islam versus Shia Islam, and it is Western democratic governments playing a role in supporting Sunni Islam, because all Western democracies make up the coalition forces opposed to Shia Islam, Iran, and Syria, along with other factions of the Islamist fighting powers. Communists, Russia, and China supports Shia Islam. You should be under no illusion which ideological nation supports which sect of Islamism. Regardless of where an Islamic war is taking place, there is always a flow-on effect on our home soil with Islamist terrorism. We have identified that there are only two types of terroristic behavior we should be most concerned about. One relates to internalized terror. This behavior has already caused unnecessary injury and death to many Australians. The other is externalized terror. This deals with the effects on both civilians and soldiers alike. You see this every day on any news channel. 9/11 will always be a constant reminder of how people anywhere were affected by the Sunni Islamic-led bombing of the World Trade Center, Twin Towers, and other pre-selected targets within the USA. Is it any coincidence that our Prime Minister was in the Pentagon at the precise moment it came under attack? It left a significant memory, a scar which never really heals, and just to make us more aware, we witnessed the Bali bombings on the 12th of October 2002, just 1 year later. Just watch the news and you will know what we mean. You cannot escape Islamism, but you can face up to it and campaign against it. Let that be the example for our independent politicians to see, and let them make their minds up about what direction they should be headed. They will either want to work with us or against us, and no one should be under any illusion about the consequences. Let's be clear about this. Terrorism is defined as an action or threat of action where the action causes certain defined forms of harm or interference, and the action is done or the threat is made with the intention of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. Islamism, communism, socialism, and globalism, these four specifically represent our common adversary because there is a threat made with the intention of advancing their political, religious, or ideological cause, which is both offensive, harmful, and alien to all Australians. You can read more about this from an academic perspective just by doing a simple search in Wikipedia for terrorism in Australia. For those of you who are already satisfied that Islamism has since the early 1970s played its role in crimes against Australians and especially for the purpose of advocating Islam, Sharia legal codes and localized support for Islamism through Islamic dawah, then you have no choice but to rise up against Islam. Islamic religion, Islamic ideology, and Islamic governance is being used to influence your opinion through mainstream media sources which we don't need to name, and given enough airtime will change the way Australians live. Your society and government is being reordered to suit Islam. Islamism has always been the plan used by the Islamist. For over 1,400 years Islamism has gained territory, deceived and murdered countless millions. It has gained ground whether by coercion or deception and terror. Islam over time, in its relentless expansion to dominate the whole world's people, will succeed if not stopped. Communism, socialism, and globalism expect to succeed through policies introduced which did not exist in its original constitutional form respective of each ideology or ism. These New World Order policies use language referring to multicultural diversity where all humans can live under the same roof yet all keep their original culture, language, religion, and governing systems including legal codes. We know this will not work. It will only lead to a worsening fractured society, one in which there is no clear confident leadership or parliament. By then, no one will be steering our nation on a safe course and Australia will quickly become a lawless and hostile social environment. All the while, Islamism, communism, and socialism will be fighting to fill the political and ideological vacuum left by a fractured society so divided that it would seem as if nothing can save it from losing its national identity to any one of the bullies, China, Russia, or some form of Islamist coalition, perhaps Indonesia and Malaysia, installed by the mightier Chinese who don't want their nation overrun by Islam. The stakes couldn't be higher today. If we had told you this before 9/11, would you have understood that there has always been a plan within Islamism for its believers, Muslims, and you, the disbelievers, or kuffar? Our government, irrespective of which political party is now or was in power in the past, has known since as early as the 1970s what the consequences will be for Australia should they adopt multicultural policies, yielding a diversity of people without consideration for how your lifestyle is being socially ordered to suit Islamism. Now you will see how politicians will open the floodgates to allow more Muslims to arrive legally from nations such as Malaysia and Indonesia. Two specific politicians now with the greatest power were asked in 2015 about the threat posed by Islamic terrorism, Islamic extremist views and what effect greater immigration from Islamic nations will have on Australian society. A reply from one of these politicians was, "They will become more Australian over time," while another stated when asked if he believed that there was a problem within Islam, he replied, "There is no problem within Islam. If we had told you this in 2015, would you have believed then? Have you ever wondered that the Islamist expansive actions into Europe from the Middle East and North Africa was all part of the bigger plan to top up populations for economic gain? Heed this warning now. You should be under no illusion that this same plan is being orchestrated in Australia. You will realize this once natural and man-made disasters along with the resurgence of Islamist terrorism, ISIS, and religio-political instability becomes more apparent within Southeast Asia, especially in Malaysia and Indonesia. We expect there will be millions of Islamic refugees arriving. It will be their number one destination, Australia. So, just as you saw in Europe, so it will be the same for Australia. We all need to be a legion of many, united and strong to carry out what must be done next. We are guardians of Australia. The time to rise proud, rise strong and rise united approaches. You should join with us.